My name is Katz, and today we are going to be discussing introspection, defined as the process of looking inward. This is a very difficult statement to make in the sense that by looking inward, I don't mean simply, say, scanning how our organs might feel, though that is an experience that you can have. You can certainly, say, meditate and in silence do a body scan from your head to your feet, and you can see how different areas of your body feel, and you can even concentrate upon your breath if you'd like, and follow it into the nostrils, and with enough awareness see it and feel it inflating your lungs. That is not necessarily all that I mean when I say introspection. I also don't necessarily mean an analysis of our personality, of our previous actions, or patterns as they manifest as a means to understand how we relate to other individuals in the world that we share. That too can be seen as a form of introspection. The type of introspection that I want to highlight, I suppose, is contemplation of simply what is going on. Consciousness exists. That to me is undeniable, because I am here and I can experience it. I am, in fact, consciousness. I am the process of experience. And I can confidently say that I am not just a process or a window through which the universe experiences itself, but rather continuous with the whole of the universe. This might sound like a grand statement. It might sound at first glance like something that is a little presumptuous, or something to maybe make us feel a little bit bigger than we are, and really you can take either end of the point of view. You can see yourself in relationship to how big your consciousness can get, or your awareness can get, of how big, say, the universe is when we look through our largest and greatest telescopes. If we take the point of view of the individual that is separate from the universe, it is extremely easy to feel that we are rather insignificant. If we assume time as we perceive it, and further because we have no memory of having lived before, and we can observe that for each individual, death appears to be the ceasing of consciousness, at least the ceasing of the individual as such. When someone dies, we can no longer experience the pattern that person used to inhabit, I suppose. And people are distinctive like that. We know what they look like, we know what they act like even, and we can study and we can try to understand more and more how and why, for example, a person acts in the way that they do. The reality of the matter is that if we take the materialistic viewpoint, for instance, each individual person is composed of 37.2 trillion cells. we could then divide those cells into components and into its atomic composition and into its subatomic particles down to fundamental particles, and even before that, perhaps the grounds in which those particles would come to be, right? In something like a void that isn't really a void. Because the most bizarre and the craziest thing about this universe is that anything at all is going on in the first place. So there's always the where did that come from miracle going on. And I am sorry to use the term miracle because I realize it is loaded and it evokes a certain sense of magic that we as a society today are very reluctant to take in, to accept, or to even give any sort of credence. And yet it's what we have to do. Because there is something going on, and that is undeniable. I would further say, as successful as all scientific endeavor is to try to bit, chop, and organize reality into the smallest bits that we can conceptualize of or measure, is limited. Science or scientific statements are limited because what they end up leaving out is the conscious observer itself, you. There is something, and you are the evidence of it. You are the knower, in the sense that all knowledge that we can have of reality, of the world, all of the science, all of the physics, all of the psychology, all attempt in a sense at explanations as objective as they can get, some more than others, of our environment, are all third-person view explanations. The first-person view is always locked to the third-person observer, because the first-person view is the ground in which all other views emerge. It is in the realm of experience only that we can ever have thoughts and ideas to conceptualize of and to augment our experience of reality. And I add emphasis on experience because we often forget in the process of quantifying things, in the process of trying to understand things in an objective manner, that all of this objectivity is only useful and only meaningful in so long as it augments our subjective conscious experience. The filter of consciousness, therefore, is basic, and without consciousness, all and every idea and model of reality, however accurate, however valid it may seem, ceases to have any meaning. I brought a quote by Professor Andre Linda at Stanford. He is a renowned physicist, and he says on this topic, "This model of a material world obeying the laws of physics is so successful that soon we forget about our starting point as conscious observers and say that matter is the only reality and that perceptions are only helpful for its description. I think Andre Linda has it right. I believe that there is something that is truer than science, and that is your experience of something going on right now. Even making a statement to the correlates of consciousness and to saying that they exist somewhere in the brain, even making a statement to declare that there is a hard problem of consciousness to be solved, one that we haven't made much of any progress in the last 100 or so years, is a statement that is supportive that we live in a universe where consciousness exists. Isn't that crazy? Isn't that bizarre? That you are here at all? That you have the ability to experience emotions and to experience and quantify and form models, however accurate and useful, of our reality, to observe a universe that is sensible, which is to say that it makes sense, that it is coherent, that it is continuous, and in being those things, it is also to some degree predictable. If the universe was chaotic in a way that it is not sensible, that it cannot be understood, let's say logically, that it cannot be coherent with itself, where it isn't continuous with itself, where things are arranged in not reoccurring patterns, as is the case, but rather ephemeral, just once in a while patterns, or even just once. And you can't call it a pattern anymore if it just happens once, because there's no repetition there. But we have a universe where we can note, in fact, through the sciences, that it is coherent, that it is continuous, that it makes sense, that there are things that we can call laws. So I think in this system, which in that sense is perfect, it is operating as you can predict that it will operate. It is sensible, it is logical, it is intelligent. And in that system, experience, consciousness exists. It is not, and it cannot be, that is an accident or a fluke, unless we want to say that the system is not coherent, not consistent, not patternistic, not sensible. But then science would fall apart, right? Ultimately, what I am proposing is that if we aim to get a whole, deeper, and more coherent idea of our reality, of what is going on, we must gravitate towards introspection. Introspection meaning contemplation of consciousness, or with consciousness. This is the introspection that I am advocating for today. And what it means is that it is not necessarily limited to what we conceive of our inside, to what we conceive of what constitutes us as individuals, but rather all that constitutes your experience, all that constitutes your consciousness. And that involves all of the processes, all of the ideas, all of the mathematics, all of the science, all of the physics, all of the imagery, all of your beliefs, and as far out into the universe as you can see or imagine.